Hey everyone, welcome back. So today is Thursday, and obviously the market's didn't do too well today as far as Bitcoin is concerned. Ethereum was up, miners were down actually today. So we'll get into all that, what's going on there. We'll also take a look at the institutions. Are they actually selling recently here on the Bitcoin miners or not, right? We'll take a look at some numbers that we do have here for them going back a month and then also going back 6 months. And then we'll also talk about really quick as far as the Ethereum getting closer to a basically approval of spot Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, Ethereum ETF, sorry. But that's basically it. Then we'll get into the Q&A side of things. So it should be a pretty short and sweet video, I think. Okay. But let's get into the stuff here. As always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Do your own research. And this is my full disclosure for you guys. Pause it, read it here if you like. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. If you guys could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And let's get into what's going on here with Bitcoin. We'll take a look at some charts here on it. We'll look at the network hash rate, all those other things that are important to the miners. So this is the network hash rate for Bitcoin right now. It is climbing back up on the 7-day average. You can see here, we're back up to 605 exahash on it. We were down to a low of approximately, 575 exahash, right? So a little bit of a decrease there, not much, about 4 or 5% or so. It isn't the decrease that we were expecting. I keep saying this all the time. But obviously, Bitcoin price being much more higher with the Bitcoin Bitcoin spot, Bitcoin ETFs being out there in the wild, that's obviously helping the price stay up relatively high. And then if we look at the Bitcoin fees per day, we can see on the transaction side of things, today was 29.82. So that's obviously having a little bit of an impact here. We're driving up a little bit. Not sure what's driving that. Maybe Ordinals or Runes is driving that up a little bit here, but it's not much. Obviously, it's about 2 million more per day on average. So that's at least a good sign there that we're having a little bit more there. If we look at the hash price right now, hash price has come down. Obviously, as Bitcoin price has come down, we are currently at $53.46 per day per petahash. And we peaked here at about 56.525. So yeah, about $3 and change down from where we were just a couple days ago on it. Okay. Or actually yesterday, excuse me. Now, as far as Bitcoin price is concerned here, Bitcoin was down obviously today. It was down approximately 1.69%. We had a low today of 66,259. We can see that wick down to here, basically taking out all the gains that we had here from Monday. Right, Monday was a great day. Bitcoin miners did great. Bitcoin miners did great on Tuesday too. So we were thinking that maybe things are going to turn around a little bit here, but things are just coming down here. And it could be just the institutions, the companies that still want to get into the spot Bitcoin ETFs and things like that. Maybe they're driving the down price a little bit lower, right? There's usually like, 120 days or something like that, once this Bitcoin spot ETF was approved, it takes some institutions, some pensions, some family funds and things like that they have to do their due diligence on it and see how things progress. Obviously, Bitcoin has far outdone anything that has been in history with the ETFs when the ETFs are concerned. We'll look at some numbers as well here in a second for Bitcoin. But obviously those are all good things here. But we're just kind of in this kind of little, what would you call this? I would call this possibly the phase of accumulation that we're in right now, right? We've been obviously trading sideways here, down a little bit, but mostly sideways here ever since, when was this, March 24th. So almost 2 months now, right? We've been kind of going sideways here a little bit. We've come down obviously, but overall we're kind of sideways from where we were back then. So this is more of an accumulation phase. We had the halving event as well. And you can see here that the miners didn't do too well today either. We had some miners that were up for really no reason, like Digihost, DMG were up. Mawson was up a little bit as well, 5.26%, but everybody else was kind of down. If we look at some of the major ones here, if we look at like Bitdeer was just obviously coming down day for the last 3 days. Bitfarms was on the way up and then obviously pulled back a little bit today as well. Cypher, same thing, 3 nice days in a row, and then down today, big red candle for them. Cleanspark, also, we had quite a large wick up here on yesterday. It's come back down to like the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement, potentially. Let's see who else we have here. Hot 8 was down quite a bit today, 10%, right? It went way back down. IREN, same thing, was way down today. We'll see how tomorrow goes. Tomorrow, if it comes down even more, I may actually buy into a little bit because it's just gone way up too much, and I don't like to chase. So I like to wait for a full pullback. We had a nice pullback today. Maybe we'll get another pullback tomorrow. If we get down to this fib number here, like 615, maybe at that point I'll start to nibble a little bit more onto it. Marathon, same thing, down in the last 3 days. A little bit little bit different from the other miners. And then we got Riot. Riot was down today quite a bit as well. And then we got Wolf as well, down today. It's been kind of up and down all over the place here. It's been kind of trading sideways a little bit here recently. Okay, so that's Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners here, right? We're still early in all of this. We still have a ways to go, I think. So it's obviously not fun. You just got to be patient, right? Patience rewards greatly with Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin in general. But it's always that's never fun when Bitcoin's going down or the miners are going down. But that's it for that. Let's take a look at, I wanted to show you guys the chart here. Actually, not really a chart, but just a table. This is Bitcoin and traditional assets return on investment versus USD, right? So if we go back 10 years here, you can see if you bought Bitcoin 10 years ago, you'd be up like 437%. Gold, you'd actually be down 0.25% from then. And then S&P 500, you'd be up 277%. So meaning what that means actually is the institutions, especially with the spot Bitcoin ETFs that happened obviously recently, those have had a huge impact on those institutions that got into the spot Bitcoin ETF, right? They're basically printing money at this point with fees and everything else that's going on in there. And this kind of coincides with the SEC changing their Ethereum rules, right, to possibly allow this spot Ethereum ETFs. What that means is basically the institutions are kind of like whispering in the SEC's little ear there, you know, this is good, we want to make money, this is a great way for us to make money, and it's safe for institutions, for investors, and things like that. And I think just the overabundance of hearing it not only from institutions, banks, and other places like that, but also from individuals as well. The SEC kind of capitulated on actually doing this, right? So going back into here, the SEC changes the Ethereum rule, sets stage for ETF approval, and we got that today, right? So this is more or less, I think, the SEC capitulating on all of this stuff here. Eventually, this is going to open up the floodgates, I think, for other coins to be included in that as well, because for a long time, the SEC, or at least Gensler, has been stating that they view Ethereum as a security, right? So this is definitely like a 180 change in their direction that they've been going here. And I think this is obviously based on just a lot of pressure on them to do this. But here's what we got here. So the Securities and Exchange Commission on Thursday approved a rule change that sets up proposed spot Ethereum ETFs for final approval. The SEC must still approve the S1 registration statements, but observers of the process have said such approvals are generally a formality. So that's good, right? We still have one more process to go through the S1s. We don't know when that's going to get unlocked, but we know it's going to happen here. The announcement on Thursday on the agency's website seemed unlikely barely a week ago and underscores the growing demand for cryptocurrencies-based investments, right? Kind of like I've been saying, institutions are loving this because they're making bank on it, right? So what's good for the institutions, right? It's going to put more pressure on the SEC to approve more things like this. The decision affects funds proposed by Van Eck, BlackRock, Fidelity, Bitwise, ARK21 Shares, Grayscale. These new products will be based on the ongoing price of Ether, the native cryptocurrency of the smart contracts Ethereum blockchain. Existing Ether-based ETFs are based on futures contracts, right? So that's kind of what we have right now, kind of the same way that we have with Bitcoin at the past. One other thing to note here is the big change here is also that the spot Ethereum ETFs will not be able to be staked. So people that are staking, I think only like 25% of Ethereum is staked right now by people or corporations or individuals, whatever it might be. So you won't be getting those yields on Ethereum through the spot Ethereum ETFs. I want to keep saying spot Bitcoin ETFs because I've been saying it for so long. But that's the main thing that's going to change here, that you're not going to be able to do that here. So you're just going to get basically Ethereum in like you are getting with Bitcoin, I guess you could say, right? The same thing. So if you were looking to, so I'm guessing people that are already invested in Ethereum or have Ethereum on their wallets and they're staking them, they're more than likely not going to switch over to these spot Ethereum ETFs, right? This is going to be more for the mom and pops, the ones that have cash in pension funds and 401ks, profit sharing plans, anything like that. This is a tool for those people to use this, just like Bitcoin, right? So I was wrong on this. I didn't think that the SEC was going to approve it because we've been hearing all along that the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, was saying that the Ethereum was basically a security. I didn't think this was going to happen, honestly. So I'm a little bit surprised by this. I'm actually quite surprised that this is actually happening. But I think just from the pressure that they've been having from everybody else on them, about this. Obviously, the huge performance that the spot Bitcoin ETFs have had, obviously the windfall effects of all the money that they're making on it has had an effect on this, I think. Okay. Now, as far as what do I think is Ethereum going to do with Bitcoin, right, in comparison, I think Ethereum is still going to follow Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum is going to go up as well, right? If we look at a chart here, I could probably pull this up really quick here for you guys. But over the last year and year to date, we can see that Ethereum pretty closely follows Bitcoin as it is. So here's Bitcoin. We're going to add Ethereum in here as well. Ethereum, we don't want futures. Well, this is the futures at least. Let me see if I've got Coinbase here. Yep, there we go. Okay. So going to year to date on this one here, we can see pretty closely the two are following, right? The orange lines here are Ethereum. Sometimes it does outperform a little bit of Bitcoin. Sometimes it underperforms for an extended period of time, and then it's obviously been catching up here. But Ethereum is up 61% and Bitcoin is up 60% year to date. If we go out a year, since then, we can see that Bitcoin's up 148% and Ethereum is only up 111%. So I expect that gap to maybe close a little bit more than what it is right now. And then if we look at the 5-year chart, we can see here that Ethereum has outperformed already Bitcoin by 1,316% for Ethereum and BTC 726%, right? But that's why I'm saying, and at least on the charts that I'm seeing here, in the recent charts, year to date and 1 year out, we're seeing more of a closer match between the two here, it looks like. But we'll see. You know, maybe Ethereum will outperform. In the poll that I just pulled on for you guys are saying that no, Ethereum will not outperform Bitcoin. 69% of you are saying no. So that's kind of what I'm seeing also. I mean, it might happen a little bit here. It might outperform at times and might underperform as well at certain times. So if you have Ethereum or Bitcoin, I think you're going to do very well going forward. Some are saying that Ethereum could possibly get to like 10,000. Is that possible? I think it's possible, right? It's at 3,800 right now. If Bitcoin goes 2-3x, Ethereum could do the same thing, obviously, here. So definitely possible for that to happen. Okay. But that is it on that one. Let's get into the institution side of things. So are institutions actually selling here recently or in the last 6 months as well? We'll look at that data and we'll also take a look at obviously the shares that have been bought compared to the stock performance and things like that. So I pulled in all this data basically from the actual miner sheets that I have here for all the miners, and I track that monthly, right? So when they report, I usually just look up what's going on there with the institution side of things, and it helps us take a look to see where is institutional money going into, right? And how has the stock performed because of it and things like that. I have taken out the percentages as far as institutions the percentage of institutions in each stock. I think that was a little bit flawed there because sometimes the shares are a little bit more than the institution growth, and then you get a negative, things like that. So I think looking at the actual shares to percentage of stock price change over the 6 months and the 1 month over month difference as well has a better correlation, or at least better look to it. Not really look, but better data behind it, I think, more accurate. So here's all the data we have on it, and here's the charts on it. So if we look at each one individually here going forward, we can see here that this is for the 6 months change here. So I'm going back 6 months on these guys. We can see that BitDigital stock price is down 25.62% from then. Shares have been increasing here to 14.7 million additional shares have been added, right, by institutions. So I'm guessing this is not driven, the decrease in the price of some of these guys is not driven by institutions, might be driven by investors more so than the institution side of things. Because as you see here, 14.7 million shares, that's a lot of shares, right? And the stock is still down 25.62%. I think individual investors are the ones that are kind of selling out of that. It could be obviously the fear of the halving event happening. So other things as well, just the performance of the company or whatnot, right? But so we're seeing that 6 months over, from the prior 6 months ago. Same thing with BitDeer here. BitDeer, actually, the institutions were selling here as well, 2 million shares, and the stock is down 28%. Bitfarms, institutions actually bought 5.7 million, the stock is down 34%, right? Cypher, institutions bought 26 million shares, stock is up 50%. Cleanspark, institutions bought 24 million, stock is up 60%. So it was a combination of institutions buying and individual investors as well, I think. CORZ Scientific, I don't have the number as far as what the stock has been because they changed over their ticker symbol to CORZ instead of CORZQ, I think it was, in bankruptcy. But we do show that they have obviously increased their shares by institutions by 12.3 million. Hive, institutions increased by 13.3 million, and the stock is down 32%. HUT 8. That one's kind of hard to tell. How far is HUT 8 down? HUT 8 is down only 4.79%. Okay, 4.7. That doesn't make sense. HUT on the 6 months. Let's see. Stock price. HUT 8 is down 83% from 6 months ago in stock price. Institutions only bought in 3.1 million. IREN is up 17.64%. Institutions bought 12.6 million. Marathon is up 9.79%. And institutions bought 25 million. Riot is down 36%. And institutions bought 25 million shares, right? That's a lot of shares for a lot of these guys here. And I'm surprised that the share price is actually down from 6 months ago on some of these. TeraWulf is up 11.8%, and the institutions bought 21.7 million, almost 21.8 million. So that's kind of what you're seeing here is I think individual investors are selling more so than the actual institutions potentially, because it doesn't make any sense for the, at least to me, it doesn't make any sense why institutions are buying a boatload of shares and still some of these guys are going down in price. Okay, so there's that on 6 months. If we look at the month-over-month difference, things look a little bit different here as well. BitDigital is actually up 6.25%. Institutions bought 2.98 million. BitDeer is down 13%. Institutions actually sold 180,000. Bitfarms is down 4.85. Institutions also sold 420,000. Cypher is down 15.95%, but institutions did buy 2.8 million. Cleanspark is down 13.6. Institutions bought 1.9 million. CORZ is up 21.9, and institutions bought 3.95 million. And then Hive is down 18, almost 19% there. Institutions bought 1.5 million. HUT is down, let me see, where's HUT? HUT is down 80% from a month ago. Wow. Let's see here. And then institutions bought 1.2 million. Iris is up 34%. Institutions bought 1.4 million. Marathon up 5.19. And institutions bought 500,000. Riot is down 16%. And institutions actually sold 590,000. And then TeraWulf is down 21%. And 3.8 million was bought into them by institutions. Right, so it's kind of interesting to take a look at that, and that's kind of the numbers and the graphs here that I'm using for these things. So, like I said, institutions are still buying into the miners. I think it's just individual investors that are kind of panicking and things like that, because you're seeing huge inflows, obviously, from the institutions. So, as long as that continues, we'll probably continue to be this way. We've also had, obviously, some shares being sold by the actual CEOs and the management on some of these guys as well. That obviously didn't help some of these guys out as well in the last 6 months, I would say. But overall, institutions are buying into them. That's a good sign, right? The only ones that really sold out of these companies here recently is Bitfarms, BitDeer, and Riot, right? I'm surprised they sold out of Riot, right? I don't understand why they would sell out of them, especially as they're getting, of course, kind of up and running. Bitfarms, I understand, right? The CEO FUD around there, the Paraguay FUD, the taxes in Canada FUD also. Okay, I can understand why institutions were selling out of Bitfarms. BitDeer, the only thing I can think of there is maybe their just growth this year isn't that great. But if that's the case, we would have probably seen the same thing with maybe like TeraWulf and Cypher as well, which we didn't see that. So you got to look at all those things that are happening with each company individually and kind of figure out what is going on, what is the mindset of the institutions a little bit as well on that side of things. Okay. But that is it. I think overall, I mean, you can see the institutions are buying into the miners, and we'll obviously take a look at this. And then for the next month, which obviously this is probably based on data that is maybe 2 weeks old right now. Okay. So that is it for institution side of things. Let me know what you guys think of this. I think it's always good to take a look at that as well. See where the institutions are putting their money into, and then what is the outcome of the actual stock performance over 2 periods of time here. All right, but that is it. So let's get into the Q&A side of things here, and I think we'll call it a day. So Q&A also. Q&A is like delayed 15 seconds or something like that. So if you put in a question, I will get to it as long as it's a polite question and you're not being a jerk about something. I will obviously answer your question here. So give it time. I will get to all your questions. Okay, let me pull up my sheet here. Let's see here. Mark, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Zoom out, don't freak out. Exactly, right? We're still very early in this. If you look at if you look at like the 1 minute or the 15-minute chart candles and things like that, you're going to be freaking out. Even if you look at the daily, you're going to be freaking out. If you look out a little bit further out, right? We have a lot longer time frame to go here. I think we're still very early. We still have at least, in my opinion, at least 8 to 12 months to 18 months potentially, depending if we're left aligned or right aligned on the growth curve. Okay, so be patient out there. Don't freak out. Let's see. Hi, Sub, are you on LinkedIn? I am not. I'm not on LinkedIn. I think I have a profile that might be still out there, but I haven't used LinkedIn in a couple of years. Probably like 5 years, 7 years or something like that. So I don't know if there's anything good on there. Let's see. Okay. The thing is, when I look out, I guess further out, all I see is miner dumps. Yeah. I mean, recently, yeah. Look out a little bit further out. Look out a year out. See where we were a year to where we are now on the miners, and you get a different perspective on things. But if you look out a month, 2, 3 months, yeah, things look pretty bad on those. But you got to give it time, right? We had the halving event happening, all that stuff happening. Let's see here. Okay, question. Should miners include the progress of their open ATMs with their monthly production? Oh, I think that would be fantastic if they did. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think that has to be part of the reporting through the SEC as well, I think. I could be wrong on this. But yeah, that would be great if they could provide that. How much they've pulled on it, we would actually get the number of shares each month that are out there. Oh, that would be great. But I don't know how easily that would be to have them report that. But yeah, that would be great. Let's see. Is HUT a buy right now, given it's dropped so much? Your thoughts on its valuation? So HUT is, I mean, they have good things going for them, and they got some bad things going for them. Bad, I'll just say right off the bat. Bad thing is obviously their operations as far as their self-mining. Right, no real growth there as far as hash rate growth. They are obviously doing good things, I think, to get rid of some of the older machines, try to make it as profitable as possible. So that's a good thing there. But the biggest downside to them that I see right now is the lack of hash rate growth this year, right? They're waiting on maybe prices to drop on ASICs, which I don't think they will too much. Maybe they're waiting also on newer generation miners. Okay, you could do that, but you could also have options to where you could get newer machines as well, like other companies have done too. The good things are they have a boatload of HODL right now. They also have managed services. They got data centers where they can possibly put in AI servers in there as well, right? The data centers in Canada, I believe, Sue said this, I believe they're like 2 or 3 data centers. So they're actually pretty good data centers. I just don't know what the flow rates of the air and everything else are. Can they handle the more power hungry and higher producing heat machines like the H100s, the chips, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at. As far as where they are right now, would they be a good buy? I don't know. I think they might lag a little bit behind some of the miners that are growing tremendously this year, getting to 30 exahash, 20 exahash, 40 exahash this year possibly, or within the next 12 months. So it's tough for me to say. I haven't been a fan of HUT. I liked some things that they've done. I don't like some things that they haven't done, but it's tough to say, right? I mean, that's going to be up to you. If you think that they're going to be able to turn this around, right? Asher has said, grade me on our Q3 performance, not on our current performance, right? Because he's trying to turn the company around. Okay, that's fair enough. But what if Bitcoin goes up to 120,000 by then, and we don't really have much as far as turning around the company, but obviously the stock price has gone up because of that, because their revenues have increased because of that as well, but there's nothing really there to it, right? So I think the big thing would be obviously to see how they turn around their operations more so than anything else, and the Bitcoin price going actually up. Okay, you got to look at it that way. Let's see. What do you think is relatively the most undervalued miner? Not that some of the stocks have rallied. I was going to, just about a week ago or 2 ago, I would have said probably IREN and Bitfarms. Bitfarms more so probably right now than IREN. IREN's obviously had a nice run up. The other one is CORZ. CORZ obviously out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. There's some concern with them, right? So that would be probably the 3. I would say maybe even Digital, right? They have a good AI customer there, 50 million potentially getting to 100 million in revenue. Good profit margins on that as well, 60 to 70% as well. So that might be undervalued right now based on that. We'd like to see a little bit more growth from them on their self-Bitcoin mining. They're going to get to 6 exahashes is their goal. We haven't seen anything as far as stated for purchases on miners for them yet, right? So that might be another one. Okay, next question here. Hey, Sebastian, which miner do you think is executing the best on HPC, and which do you think has the most potential? Okay. On that one, I think right now, BitDigital is probably performing the best, right? They have a customer that's for 50 million. Potentially, they can up that to 100 million. They're working through that details there, I guess. After that, I think Core would probably be the next one there. What do they have what do they have a contract with CoreWeave right now? And somebody, they rented out an HP data center, or they're leasing it, and they're providing obviously the infrastructure there to CoreWeave, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's it. And that's for 100 million for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I can't remember exactly what that is. So that would probably be the next one. And then Hut 8 has just recently came out and stated that they have, I think, a 20 million annual customer for some HPCs as well. So that would be kind of the order that I would go with right now. The other companies that are out there, IREN, Cypher, and maybe TeraWolf, I think. You got Hive in there as well. They're toying with things there. Hive has a bunch of not HPCs. Well, maybe they do have HPCs if you call them that. They have a bunch of GPUs that they've transitioned over from Ethereum mining to HPCs. So they could obviously grow that potentially as well. And they're not as fast potentially as the H100s, right, which are really good at AI and things like that. But those are the ones I would kind of look at that way. Let's see. Which Ethereum mine do you think we should pay attention to? There's nobody mining Ethereum anymore. The only company that's out there that has Ethereum and they're staking it is, I believe, BitDigital right now. So you can't mine Ethereum. It's all proof of work, not proof of stake. Sorry, not proof of work. So there's no way you can do that. Let's see here. Sebastian, please assess my portfolio. Put it in there. I'll give you my thoughts on it. Let you know. Mark, yeah, I mean, Sue Ennis is fabulous. And, she is like the communication wizard when it comes to the company. Even with Hut 8, now with them, she is the best. Let's see. Why is market pricing Cypher higher than Bitfarms in your opinion? Cypher has a better cost of electricity right now. Let me take a look at the numbers here that I have for Cypher and for Bitfarms. Bitfarms currently is at 7 exahash. Cypher is at 7.7 exahash, so they're a little bit higher price. So market cap 1.1 billion roughly for Cypher. Bitfarms is at 781, right? Cypher doesn't also have the FUD that Bitfarms has surrounding the CEO, the Paraguay Bitcoin mining ban thing there, and obviously the taxes in Canada. So I think the FUD is kind of keeping the stock down. Okay. Are you expecting the same pattern through BTC ETF approval? And given the previous pattern, are we in December 2023 or January 2024? Good question on that. So you're talking about basically the ETFs for Ethereum, I think, and that one. Yeah, I don't know. Patterns can change, obviously, and things like that. I'm not a chart guy. I look at just the fundamentals of the companies and pretty much look at the history a little bit of Bitcoin and what it's done and where it might possibly go in the next 12 to 18 months after the halving event. If history repeats, right? History doesn't always repeat, but it does rhyme. So I don't know. Do you think Bitfarms will rally once they name a CEO? I think it would depend on the CEO, right? If we get somebody good, potentially, because I think that FUD is going to be done and over with. And maybe even if we get a CEO that's just okay, I think maybe at that point the company will do great going forward. They still have Ben there. Maybe if Ben gets reported as the CEO, that'd be great. But other than that, I think just getting that FUD out and getting it over with, I think that would help the stock. Question, can CORZ keep the recent momentum going? Potentially, right? Adam Sullivan is a smart guy. He's obviously doing great things there. If they can upgrade their fleet, right? He said it himself that they could basically increase their hash rate by 10 exahash just by swapping out their older fleet for the newer generation miners, which I think would be huge. If they can do that somehow, that would be great. And then obviously that I think would help the stock as well. But yeah, I think they can definitely do much better than where they are right now. They're still way undervalued from where they should be. How do you deal with all the bearish sentiment? These guys in spaces really have no positive outlook for these miners. Yeah, some of these guys that are on the Twitter Spaces, they're more like they're traders, right? They want to see the price come down to a certain point. They want to buy in at that point, and then they want to sell at a certain point as well, and that works for them. They're also trading pretty much daily out there, right? They have the time to do it. I don't have the time to do it. I know where things are more or less going to go, and I just kind of try to buy in before they go there, right? So that's why I started buying into the miners in, 2022, because I didn't know where the bottom was going to be. I didn't want to miss the bottom, but I'm like, okay, let's start getting into these miners here. I'm going to pay a little bit maybe higher, but if I can dollar cost average down into them, I will get a much better average overall, and that's the way it worked out for me, and I don't have to worry about it, right? Some of these guys also use options, which obviously some of these guys also don't recommend using options because they're so volatile on the miners. It's just, you sleep better when not having options. You sleep much better if you just have the stocks. You get it in a really good position at good average prices, and then you don't really care what happens going forward because you're already up, X% up or whatever it might be. So that's kind of how I deal with it. Hi, Special. Please assess my portfolio, Bitfarms. So if all your portfolio is in Bitfarms, just be patient. I think I'm in Bitfarms as well. I'm in Cleanspark. I'm in IREN a little bit as well. But Bitfarms, I think, will do much better going forward. They have good growth plans this year, but they have to execute, right? So we need to see for them, May, they're supposed to be get to 10 exahash. We only have a couple more days to that. Definitely love to see where they are on that. And then obviously in June, they stated that they want to get to 12 exahash, right? If they can do that, and then by the end of the year get to 21 exahash, I think that will be a really good catalyst going forward for them. And if they can get a CEO in here relatively quickly, I think that would obviously put out some of the FUD that's out there. Let's see here. Okay, Anthony also states number 2 is Bit Digital and 3 IREN. So I think you have a really good portfolio there, right? These are the ones that are kind of undervalued. IREN's kind of run up here recently, so you're probably doing pretty good on that one. But Bit Digital is also, I believe, undervalued from where they should be. Let's see. I'm a bit skeptical about IREN and Bitfarms. Are they likely to crash further? And why do you eulogize Bitfarms so much? It's not performing well. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we still might come back down a little bit on price on these miners. These miners are very volatile. The reason I eulogize Bitfarms is operations, right? They're really good in operations side of things, efficiency, things like that. They have made mistakes in the past, right? Other companies have made mistakes in the past. IREN has made mistakes in the past as well. IREN obviously recently came out that they're getting to 30 exahash this year. The stock has rallied on top of that, right? Because growth. Investors are looking for growth, and Bitfarms offers that growth. Bitfarms is at 7 exahash right now. They're supposed to get to 21 exahash by the end of the year. That's a 3x of growth. That is really good. IREN is at 10 exahash right now. They're getting to 30 exahash by the end of the year, is a 3x growth as well, right? The only thing that's been obviously out there that's been kind of flooding Bitfarms is, like I said, the CEO, right, getting kicked out. We had the Paraguay potential ban on Bitcoin mining for 90, 180 days, whatever it was going to be. Can't remember. That was a FUD. Then also the Canadian taxes was FUD. They got actually the taxes back for that, or the VAT taxes. So there's a lot of good things that Bitfarms is doing, and they're just way undervalued from where they really should be based on the metrics and everything else that I'm seeing here. So that's kind of why. Okay. Anthony already covered you, buddy. I think already assessed your portfolio a little bit. Let's see here. Cleanspark, Omara are the only ones worth holding. There's other companies that are worth holding right now, I think, as well. Companies that have been underperforming recently, but they're undervalued as well, right? They might actually do, if you look at X multiples, they might do actually better than like Cleanspark and Mara potentially, because they have been so undervalued. So you have to also take a look at those guys. Assuming BTC at 120,000 a year, where do you see ANY and DMG? Oh, geez. I think DMG would be possibly in a better position than ANY. So we're looking at basically, 2x here. So ANY might go up 3x, 4x, right? They obviously have stated here, I read the press release from them here recently in the last week or so, that they are looking to grow, obviously, change out their older fleet. I don't know how they're going to do that, other than maybe diluting and things like that. It's tough. DMG has a little bit more... they've been in this a lot longer than ANY has, and they also have infrastructure, which ANY does not. So I would expect DMG to do a little bit better going forward than that. But yeah, DMG, I would say maybe 4 to 5, 6x maybe potentially, depending on where things go. But that just all depends on how they can grow and everything else. Price target for IREN. What's the timeline that we're looking at? I think it should be much higher from where it is right now, given that their growth is going to be so great this year, right? So they should be, I mean, let's just say Bitcoin goes to 120,000. That's 2x for them. I think at that point, they should be at least possibly, oh, my camera just went out. I got to change out my battery. Sorry about that. So don't mind that. But Bitcoin goes up 2x. I'm guessing 4 to 6, maybe 7, somewhere around there, x potentially, from where they are right now. How high do you think the total crypto market cap will reach? Depending on the timeline, right? If we're looking at just the next maybe 12 to 18 months, it could go, we're at what, 20 billion right now, roughly, combined for them all. If we do a 10x, that would be basically 200 billion on them right now, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at. That's kind of what the BTC mining guy has been stating also, that he kind of sees things possibly going there. And I kind of tend to agree. I think if a lot of the miners do at least, a 5 to 10x, some do a little bit better, we could get there to between 150 billion to 200 billion potentially. Let's see. When do you see Paraguay situation resolving? I think it pretty much resolved itself already. If you listen to Ben on any of the calls that he's been on or anything like that, or the conference call, he said that, they have, what do they call them? I think they call them senators or congressmen over there as well, that they are pro Bitcoin mining, especially if it means that they are generating more revenue from that on the electricity side than when they sell it to, like, I think Brazil over there, right? So also Ben has stated before that they've been having less issues with regulatory issues there than they have here in the United States or Canada as well, right? So you got to take all that into consideration here. But I think that was just FUD that was put out there by some senators or something like that in there to stop the illegal Bitcoin mining, which was obviously causing some disruptions in the power grid in local communities and things like that. Let's see. Is there a leveraged way to capture the upside of Ethereum, similar to how Bitcoin miners work for Bitcoins? I don't know. I mean, Ethereum mining used to be that leverage there where you could get it. Obviously, Hive was a big one in there. They were getting a lot of cash for it. I don't know if there's any way to do it now. I don't know if there's a leverage way to do that. Not a lot of companies are staking it. Only, I think, 1 or 2 companies are staking it right now. So I don't know. Are you tracking this Paraguay situation? Yeah, I'm tracking it, but I'm not seeing anything happening there with it. We've seen some senators come out in favor of, obviously, Bitcoin mining, that they shine a positive light on it, how it helps the grid and how it also helps the country with generating more revenue and things like that, bringing in jobs, all those good things there. But, you got 1 or 2 senators like we have here. We got Elizabeth Warren, and who else is against, are you looking at that kind of FUD as well? You got to take things into consideration as well. Let's see. Why is HPC AI not being rewarded by market at all? Huge revenue, 60% gross profit or gross margins. The market is just not giving any credit. These companies are making big numbers now, unlike future exahash promises. Yeah, I mean, it's early stages, right? And then also we know that the more or less the ROI on these machines is about 2 years, right? Whereas Bitcoin mining is somewhere around 12 to maybe 14, 16 months at the worst parts of time. So you can definitely have more ROI that way, right? Then it's just questionable right now as far as the way the market's going to go in all. There's There's also questions surrounding customers. Where are the customers that we've been told that there's just so much demand, but we're not seeing those customers going into IREN and to Cypher and to Hive and to Hut a little bit. They got a 220 million contract, I believe. So where is all that demand that they're telling that there's demand for AI side of things, but we only have really one company, Bit Digital, getting a customer that's $15 million a year. So that's all got to be worked out, I think. Let's see. Who do you think the big tech companies CORZ mentioned they are negotiating with on the earnings call? I have no idea on that one. It'd be interesting to know, but yeah, I have no idea who they're negotiating with. Let's see. What is your target price for Bitfarms and Cleanspark? For Bitfarms this cycle, and this is conservative for both of these guys, I think $15 for Bitfarms, Cleanspark $70, right? But if Bitcoin goes much higher than we expect, we could definitely see north of that. But that's kind of my price target right now. Hey, Sebastian, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I've been looking at Kadena miners for a pretty long time. Do you recommend mining it? Okay, so you're looking about Kadena coin. I haven't looked into those, so I don't know much about them. But here's my only take I will give you on this. Anytime you get a miner, I don't know if it's switching to, if it went to A6, right? If it's A6 side of things, I learned a hard lesson back in 2017 with, what was that at that time? It was, oh gosh, what was that coin? It was a D3 miners, which were for, oh, I'm drawing a blank right now. But it was a new coin that got switched over to ASIC mining, and maybe it'll come back to me. But if you got the miners in right away, the miners did really well for several months. You know, you could say maybe 6 months or something like that. You got basically, you recouped your money invested in those miners relatively quickly. But after that, you were losing money on them because they were just flooded with the market with those ASICs. So be careful on those types of things. Just as a warning. Yeah, no camera. I know my camera died on me, even though I have it plugged into power. It's just sucking up too much energy, and I think I need to replace the battery on it. But we've been only going for what? Not even 45 minutes. Wow. Yeah, I need to change out the battery on that thing. It's been charging for the last 2 days too. Go figure. Okay. Let's see here. Lastly, Riot is a new patience tester. Can we see a $30 Riot end of year? Right, that would be 3x. Bitcoin goes 2x from here. Yeah, I think we can definitely see it, if not higher. Especially if they can grow their hash rate, like they're saying that they're going to grow their hash rate. I think they definitely do well. Let's see here. Are you seeing any extra costs over with Bitfarms in Paraguay in terms of tax on imports, on miners, or anything else? Nothing that's different than we don't have here in the United States. I mean, we have import taxes here. They got import taxes there. I'm not seeing anything majorly different. I think it's still very, maybe not opportunistic, but very advantageous for them to mine there, right? They have a really good power cost. The things to build out are less expensive than they would be here in the United States or in Canada as well. So that also costs less there. So I think there's a lot of pluses there. Yeah, Mark, good point there, right? Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, or Hut. Oh, come on. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the problem with AI side of things is you basically have two customers with them. You either have customers that demand or are going to need like a tier 3, tier 4 data center where you have all this uptime and redundancies and power and cooling and connections and things like that to the internet. And then you have obviously like some of the miners here, but Hut 8 does have a tier 3 data center, so they should have all those redundancies in there, right? But if you're looking to grow as a company and you're getting into AI, you're going to either, one, do it on your own, right, where you're going to build out by yourself and you have full control over it, kind of like Google has done it, like Apple has done it, like Yahoo has done in the past. Other big companies are trying to get mass adoption of their systems. Or in the beginning, you're going to use somebody like Google Cloud, AWS, or Microsoft Azure, whatever it might be, to scale your operations quickly if you need to, and then move them off site if that's the case, what's going to work out for you, right? But that's kind of the way I would look at things. The other type of customer is somebody that doesn't really need full uptime and they just need to do their large language models. On that, they need a certain amount of time, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is going to take for them to do that, and then they move on to someplace else. Yeah, say Dash, thank you. Yes, that was the coin that the D3 miner, Dash. I was drawing a blank there. Thank you so much. Let's see. When I was saying when do you see the Paraguay situation resolving, I meant an official bill being passed to address the situation. They don't need an official bill being passed, right? The bill that was being introduced was to ban mining, but I don't think it got anywhere other than just being introduced on that one. Let's see. Are you concerned at all that Cypher's growth doesn't mature until the end of the BTC cycle, or does their great pricing on energy keep you engaged, optimistic on their valuation share price? No, I think it does have an impact, and we've seen that as an impact on their stock price recently here, right? We were maybe hoping, expecting that they would announce something with their Q1 results, that they're going to possibly be able to get their hash rate installed earlier on. Obviously, that would be good, but because we haven't seen that, that's why the stock has kind of underperformed here recently in the last basically 2 weeks or so. So, yes, I think, I don't know if it's concerned, but it's definitely being viewed as a negative on the stock price or on the company right now, right? If they can do the build out this year, I think the stock would pop at that point. Should I start a Bitcoin mine? Not unless you have millions of dollars to do it. Even if you try doing it yourself, I think you're better off investing either in Bitcoin in general or the Bitcoin miners, which are a leverage play on it. I ran the numbers on it before. I should have ran the numbers before I got into Bitcoin mining with my partner. But at that point, there weren't many Bitcoin miners out there that were publicly traded in 2017. So there wasn't a lot of data. But once you run the data on it, the time, the energy, the costs, the depreciation, everything that goes into it, unless you can have money being backed by investors or just getting to scale quickly, it's going to be a tough way to make any buck on it. I think you're better off buying Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining stocks. Let's see. What is your conservative price target for BitDigital end of year? Where are they at right now? They're, let's see, BitDigital right now is at 238. I mean, I honestly think they should be probably like around $10 to $15 per share by the end of the year, if not higher. But that also depends on if they can get to their 6 exahash hash rate growth that they want to get to. Let's see. Paraguay has 20 or 25% on imports on those machines. So does the United States, I believe. It's somewhere around there as well. It's not it's not any small amount. Let's see. I'm trying to find a question here. Would pure Bitcoin miners start going out of business as more halvings occur? That depends on Bitcoin price, right? So if Bitcoin price continues to stay up there, that's going to be less of an impact on having events. And plus, we're seeing more and more Bitcoin transaction fees, which are adding to obviously the revenue of the miners as well. So no, you would see maybe some of the less efficient miners or the ASIC miners themselves being unplugged at that time, because we are seeing this continued improvement in the efficiencies of the miners and things like that. So I don't foresee that happening. You might have a couple miners here and there, but not the big guys. Let's see. Would you invite some of the miner CEOs onto the channel to ask them more in-depth questions? They seem pretty open to it. Yeah, I've had companies reach out to me, right, offering to have their CEOs or COOs or whoever come on my channel, and I just don't do that for two reasons. One, I don't really have the time to do it. I work during the day, so I would have to do this after work and things like that. But that's when I'm doing my research on the miners anyways. And the other thing is I want to kind of keep a little bit of a walled garden between me and the CEOs, the company executives and things like that. Yes, I do talk to them on Twitter Spaces, but I think that's more of an open forum for everybody to ask questions, right? So it's just not me there, and anybody can ask questions. And obviously we do have a lot of people asking them questions on there. And I think that's just a great way to get CEOs involved in there and be more open to the public that way. And it's real time. So I think it's a lot better. Let's see. If you do start a Bitcoin mining farm, can we seed fund it? Oh gosh, I ran a mining farm for 5 years. It's not easy, guys. Yeah, and then also having wow, I don't think I want to do that again. Not unless the company that I'm working for is public or something like that, because that is the only way you're going to be able to survive, is if you can dilute, grow your hash rate that way. And eventually get to mass scale, which is obviously what all these guys are trying to get to survive. It's not an easy business. Let's see here. DR Lewis on Twitter said he trimmed his Bitfarm position because he said that there was extra incurred cost of Bitfarm's operations over there in Paraguay that he didn't like. I'd like to know what those were, because I don't really see any extra cost. So, but yeah, that was interesting. I may have to reach out to him. I think we both follow each other on Twitter, so I may reach out to him, see what he was saying there. Question: are you still really bullish for the miners end of year? Yeah, I'm still really bullish. Yeah. Let's see. Do you think Bitfarm announces another ATM after this one? Okay, I think they need this one to get to 21 exahash. If they want to get beyond that, I think they will have to add another one, right? IREN did the same thing. They used one up, they got into another one because they want to grow. So it's unfortunate. Yeah, it's one of those things that the companies have to use an ATM in order to grow, right? And as long as it's accretive to investors, I think that's okay. Obviously, you're getting less bang for your buck a little bit here, but their hash rate and with the Bitcoin price going up as well, that is accretive to investors in the time being here. And you kind of have to, if you want to be like in the top 5, you have to grow. Let's see. Would you sell BTC for miners? I have some miners, 25% of my portfolio, sold Ethereum before pump for BTC. No, BTC I'm holding on to until it reaches $1 million. At that point, I may sell a portion of it. But that's BTC is put off to the side. It's off there. It's in the back of my mind. I know it's there, but I don't trade it. I don't do anything with it. It is just sitting there in cold storage. It's not going anywhere. Let's see. Thank you for answering my questions. God bless. Yeah, thank you. You're very welcome. Would you come up with the valuations for the HPC data center business sometime down the line? Yeah, I think as we have more customers or more companies doing it, we'll have to do something on that to add that into their valuation as well. Right, we'll have to look at the numbers. Obviously, some are saying that the ROI is about 2 years. The costs are really high on the H100s chips. And now when you look at Blackwell, those are probably even more expensive. So it's an expensive endeavor for these guys to get into. And the ROI, like I said, is about 2 years just to ROI on it. So we'll have to run some numbers on it for sure, especially as more and more of these companies start maybe getting bigger and bigger customers down the road. We'll have to see, right? Or it could be where they don't get any customers because the AI customers are going their own route, right? Where they have their own infrastructure and things like that to power their AI, which obviously would be more cost effective for them, I think, than partnering with somebody. Or they might just partner with like an AWS or Google Cloud or Azure. Everyone's panicking while Seb's always unfazed. Yeah, I've been through the cycle last time. I'm unfazed by this. I look at some downturns. I wish I had more cash to do it, but I look at downturns as buying opportunities. Right. I've learned to live by a couple of things. Be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. And it's always time in the market and not timing the market. Those are things that I've learned to live by recently. Okay. Let's see. Question. So I apologize if you answered this already, but do you agree with Rex that the HPC AI play from the miners is overhyped and may hurt miners that don't focus on being a pure Bitcoin miner this cycle? Yeah, I kind of agree with him there a little bit, right? We're seeing a lot of AI buzzwords being put out there. A lot of people are saying that there's a lot of demand out there, but we're not seeing that demand transfer over into actual customers for a lot of these guys, right? We're not seeing it for IREN, we're not seeing it for Cypher, for TeraWolf, I got a little customer for about 20 million or something like that. But if they're saying that there's so much demand out there for it, why is it not being translated over into actual customers that the miners could get? So I think a lot of the mining companies are being judicious and being cautious about it, which is good, right? But we'll have to see how that all works out for them. They know it's a huge expense to go to the AI side of things, right? And they want to be cautious about it the way they do it. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. What's your price target on Wolf end of year? Gosh, I don't know. I mean, Wolf isn't growing that much. They need to pay off their debt still. That's a tough one for me right now. It all depends on how they grow, if they can grow this year. But possibly, I mean, let's just say Bitcoin goes up 2x. You're looking at maybe 3, 4x from where they are right now, maybe 5. Bitcoin really starts going well. Let's see. Also, Sebastian, wondering if you would ever quit your job and be an investor YouTuber in this space full time. Oh gosh, guys, I would have to make a heck of a lot more money than what I'm making right now from YouTube and Patreon in order to do that. And with the trajectory right now, I don't see that happening anytime soon unless I reach like maybe 100,000 subscribers plus more or something like that. Just the way that things would have to work out that way. But yeah, not right now. Especially, what's your thoughts on Riot? I actually like Riot a lot, right? They've had troubles in the last year getting operational and things like that, but they have a 1 gigawatt facility in Corsicana, if they can execute on that facility, that land there that they have, and just have much, much better uptime, I think the stock is going to do really well. That's the only thing that's really holding the stock down right now is the operation side of things. If they can prove to the investors that they are operating at a much, much better operational uptime and efficiencies and things like that, I think the stock will do much better. So what percentage of your total portfolio is in miners? If we look at the stocks, if we just take stocks by themselves and put crypto off to the side by itself, in stocks, it would be basically 99% of my portfolio is in stocks, in the miners right now. If we include crypto, it would be probably 65% right now or so is in that. Majority of that in crypto is Bitcoin that I have on cold storage. Do you think NVIDIA's Blackwell will impact BTC mining in any way? Seems pretty revolutionary. No, it won't impact Bitcoin mining in any way. It is still basically a GPU, more or less, right? The Bitcoin mining is application-specific integrated chips, ASICs. Those are set to do one thing and one thing only, and that's what they do. Whereas GPUs can be used for multiple things, right? Bitcoin mining before we got ASICs was run on GPUs, and we had to run on CPUs prior to that. So I don't see that happening, no. Seb, is the rumor that you own a wallet which has 10,000 Bitcoin that hasn't been opened in 14 years? Oh gosh, I wish that was the case. Nope, nowhere near that amount, I can tell you that for sure. But that'd be nice if that was the case. Unless I learned about Bitcoin back in 2013, didn't do anything with it. I thought I was funny money at that point. Right, I was also much, much younger at that point and didn't have maybe the experience, the knowledge that I know now. Had I known what I know now back then, my gosh, I would have been buying it hand over fist. But no. Yeah, I was not the delivery guy for the pizza, right? Some guy paid 10,000 in Bitcoin for, was it 10,000 or 20,000? I can't remember now. 10,000 Bitcoin for pizza. It's now valued at what, like 600 million or something like that. Some crazy number. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Satoshi said, yeah, got a little space for him and a desk where they're working on and stuff. No. All I got to say is thank you to whoever Satoshi was. I mean, my gosh, what a transformative invention for the human civilization he has provided us and has left it all to all of us without making any significant profits on it, right? It's just, that's just crazy. That's, something that will never be forgotten, I don't think. Let's see. Could it be that HPC businesses take a lot more due diligence before finalizing? Hearing CORZ is doing database designs with relevant parties that seem really involved. Yeah, but it's also very expensive, right? So depending on the database design that you're doing, depending on what your workloads are, if you're looking at like a tier 3, tier 4 data center, you're looking at about $5 to $10 million per megawatt to build out, compared to if you're doing a Bitcoin mining farm. We got companies that are building those out at like 200,000 per megawatt to all the way, like I think IREN's paying around 750,000, right? But IREN's building out these dual purpose data centers where they could use the HPC side of things and Bitcoin mining as well. So the costs are really imperative there. And if you can get a partner on board to help fund some of this expense, that's obviously going to be a good thing for them, because they don't have to outlay it all up front, because you're looking at, billions of dollars potentially. Let's see. Sadie, I appreciate it. I may not be on the mining community much on there. I don't have a lot of time. Obviously, I work full time, and then I do the research on the miners as well after work, and family and kids and sports. So I do appreciate it. I wish I was able to spend a little bit more time on there as well. Same thing with on other things, other channels as well. But thank you. Okay, this is a good question. Do you see an issue with NVIDIA constant GPU updates and these miners buying the older versions? What's even the point? Yeah, I mean, I would have to look into what NVIDIA's roadmap is like for the GPUs, right? If it's going to be a new GPU every 2 years or something like that, and you're getting an ROI on those GPUs every 2 years, it's going to be tough. It's a tough business to be in, especially as they evolve and get much better going forward, right? So it is a concern, obviously. But we're also seeing that with miners. Miners, I mean, you need to pretty much update your machines every 3 years or so, right? But you can get an ROI on those machines in about a year. So you got at least 2 years where you're making some money on them potentially. Maybe not the greatest money because if you get into a bear market, but at least you're making something on it. So yeah. Why is there a 15% short interest on Cleanspark, which dumped disproportionately? Is it going to underperform now because it's underperformed for 2 years? Cleanspark has not underperformed for 2 years. If you look at where Cleanspark has been, basically, 2 years. I'm trying to think. That's going back to 2022. Yeah, I mean, we were in the bear market at that point. So you got to look to see where it was, and also remember that Cleanspark wasn't a miner until 2021 in January, right? With 100 petahash, they're at 17 exahash right now. Would buying smaller miners yield a much higher return than the higher market cap miners? Okay, there's things you got to look out though. You got to look out for also, are the small miners growing, and how much are they growing? How are they running efficiently, and uptime and all those things go into play there. I think some of the smaller miners that are undervalued, right, which you have CORZ, Bitfarms, IREN in there as well. You could say Cypher, TeraWolf as well in there. Those guys are still going to be growing into, maybe not this year, but into next year. Right, look at those things. But some of the smaller miners, there's not much growth in them. They may do well because, for one reason, they don't have a lot of shares out, so the stocks could get manipulated pretty badly, which we've seen in the past as well. But there's really no catalyst to drive them forward, other than just Bitcoin going up in value. Let's see. What is your guess on the number of Bitcoins that have been lost? I heard today 49% of Bitcoin is in wallets untouched for over 3 years. And that number is growing. So lost, I think there's some speculations that it's like 7 to 8 million potentially, somewhere around there, that have been lost forever that we're not getting on that. And then over the last 3 years, there've been obviously a lot of people that have bought in the bear market here in 2022 and possibly before even the bull run in 2021. So you might have people just holding on to it, right? They've learned from their friends that, hey, I got in 2017, 2016, I've held on, it's done pretty well, and it's kind of snowballed from there. Let's see. Oh, sorry, you said outperformed. Sorry, I do apologize. Read it as underperformed for the 2 years. Yeah, so it has outperformed obviously for the last 2 years. I don't think it's being shorted because of that. I think it's just because it's done so well in the last couple months, you could say last half year, that there might be some people that are thinking that it's not going to do that well going forward. But I think with them getting to 32 exahash by the end of the year, they will do much better going forward. But BTC obviously has to go up in value as well. Let's see here. Cleanspark, IREN, Bitfarms, which will outperform from now on, and which will be a laggard? Okay, so if we're looking at those, so we have IREN and Bitfarms. Bitfarms right now I think is the most undervalued compared to all these guys. IREN is a little bit kind of in the middle of the road right now. Cleanspark obviously has done very well. So if we think that Cleanspark is going to get to like $70 right now, right? That's basically basically a 5x from here. IREN I think should be much higher than where they are right now, so they could definitely do between 5 and 10x. Bitfarms, same thing, right? So depending on when you got into Cleanspark, I've got into Cleanspark and my average price is like $3 and something change. I'm doing really well with it. I'm not going to do anything with it. I've been buying into Bitfarms because I thought that one has been underperforming as well. So I have a good position in that. And I want to get more into IREN as well. So based on that, I would think that maybe Bitfarms and IREN could outperform Cleanspark, but it depends on also what Cleanspark does to report that they're getting to maybe 50 exahash, right? They do have machines to get to 50 exahash. We don't know when they're going to install the miners to get to that. Could it be this year? If they report they're getting that to this year, then the stock is going to go up even higher than what my price target is on for $70. And depending where Bitcoin goes up to 200,000 or something like that, 250. Cleanspark is going way higher. Question. Roughly, do you know what is the percentage of miners that are publicly listed in the stock exchanges versus the percentage of mining that comes from government, private enterprises, etc.? So out of the miners that I cover here, the 12 that are the large ones, right? When I covered more miners, about the 18 or so, they represented about 25. Right now, with just the miners that I covered, they represent about 22% of the network hash rate, right? Bitcoin network hash rate. So we're looking at roughly 70 some percentage of the miners that we don't cover that could be private, government run, whatever those might be that are out there, right? So that's kind of the way things are looking at. Let's see. Thank you for all you do. You're very welcome. I appreciate it. Let's see. How should we take outstanding shares in valuation market cap calculations? So I use the number that they report at the end of Q1 numbers usually. I use those and multiply it times the stock price, and that's how you get your market cap. That's kind of the way I do it. And dilution, okay. Calculation and dilution. So dilution, depending on what you're getting for dilution. Dilution is a tricky word there. I look at dilution as the miners are growing their hash rate nicely, very nicely, right? That is accretive to investors. If they're using dilution only to fund their operations and HODL, I don't take too kindly to that. We've seen that before with Hut 8 and, excuse me, Marathon as well. Let me take a sip of my water. I don't view that too kindly. But you got to look into all circumstances surrounding it, how it's being used. Let's see. I think there needs to be a law set in stone over in Paraguay addressing illegal miners, surely. I mean, there's already laws in stealing, right? You have laws for stealing probably property, for theft of electricity, things like that. There's probably laws on the books already. Just basically enforcing those, I think. That's the only issue there right now. Let's see here. Thanks, Sebastian. When will we find out about Bitfarms growth for the month of May? Probably like the first day of June, right? If it doesn't fall on a Saturday. When does it actually fall? I don't even know. But if it falls on a weekend, we probably won't find out until probably Monday. Because Bitfarms has been, like recently, in the last several months, quarters, maybe even a year or so, they've been like first day of the month, they're out there with their numbers, which is really great. And that's because I think of Ben operating there, right? Ben's running the operations there. He's right on top of things. He knows what's going on there, and he just puts that information out. You already know what you're going to be mining more or less, what you want to say in the press release. It's just putting in the figures into it, what you actually did. So they're the best at that. Let's see. Otherwise, how can you outrule the Paraguay ban for sure? You can't squarely do that on anything, right? We can't squarely say that the United States is not going to ban Bitcoin mining because there's not an actual law that's on the books that says Bitcoin miners have the right to operate, right? So you can't really go by that. If you go by that, you're going to be basically saying that any country could possibly ban Bitcoin mining, just like China has done so, right? So having a law in the books that purely says Bitcoin mining is legal does not entitle you to have any basically right to think that they would be possibly not mined down the road. You just can't go by that. I think there's already laws in place for most things as they are. Okay, yeah, I don't want to say, but yeah, are you here to ask questions or spread FUD? If you don't like the miners, then don't buy them. Yeah, I mean, but obviously, Sena is concerned. Obviously, there are a lot of concerns with Bitfarms, right? Paraguay FUD, CO FUD, the Canadian the Canadian taxes as well, right? So there is FUD out there, and it's obviously if you're invested in them, you're trying to kind of reassure yourself as best as you can that the company that you bought into is not going to go by the wayside because of potential regulatory issues at another country. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, this is a good question too. I'm at a small gain in my Bitfarms position since DCing in a few months ago. I was thinking to sell half and buy back at a lower price to reduce my cost basis. Would you consider this wise or better to keep DCing in? We don't know what the stock price is going to do tomorrow or next week or the following week, right? So you sell today. What happens if the stock continues to go up, right? That's always been my concern there. So that's why I've always liked to dollar cost average in, because I can buy more shares if I can afford it. Obviously, dollar cost averaging in makes me get in more shares at possibly better pricing. But even if I'm close to where I'm at, my dollar cost average on Bitfarms was $1.30 something, and I was still buying it at like $2 and something like that, because it's still relatively close to where my dollar cost average is at. So that's the way I would go about it, but that's on you, right? That's obviously not financial advice, so you have to do what you want to do and what you can do. But that's what I've done, so I can just tell you what I have done in the past. Okay, and I think that is it. So again, I apologize for the camera being out. I need to get a new battery on it. I'll get that order tomorrow, because this is ridiculous that it can only last an hour. It used to last like 2-3 hours being on. So I will get that resolved. I thought maybe it would have resolved itself, but thank you guys for coming in. I do greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, obviously hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And what else is there? Oh, spreadsheets for my Patreons. They get access to all the spreadsheets that I do for you guys. That's $8 a month. There, if you pay for the yearly subscription, you get 10% off. And then you also get access to the Discord server that's private for us as well. All right. So we'll see what happens tomorrow as far as the miners are concerned. We'll see where things go. I wish you guys a very, very happy Friday. It's the day before a nice 3-day weekend here in the United States. We have Memorial Day on Monday. I'm actually going to be off tomorrow. So if anything happens interesting tomorrow, we may do a live stream during like the middle of the day or early morning or something like that. If it happens, I'll have a little bit of time. But I'll be otherwise working around the house, and we'll see what happens. But otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow night. And then don't forget, I'm doing a co-host with the BTC Mining Guy on Saturday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I think we're going to have a couple CEOs on at that point as well. Talk about Bitcoin mining stocks on Twitter, or X Spaces, I guess you could call it. Okay? So that is it. I wish you guys a great night. I will see you guys tomorrow.